Hello and welcome to Aquarium Dilemmas. I'm your host, ScienceGal Aquatics. I'm Carrie, and this is my co-host,
Jesse, and welcome. Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful episode of Aquarium Dilemmas. And today, let's go into, I got a really cloudy tank all of a sudden. What happened?
Yeah, there's a couple different reasons behind cloudy tanks, and I feel like it's an issue that new fish keepers run into, that it's kind of difficult to know why water changing isn't working. Because you can water change, and it doesn't quite fix it, and then you kind of give up, maybe. And I feel like this is a really good topic to discuss for new hobbyists, because it's
New hobbyists or even old hobbyists, because let's say you're setting up a new tank, though, but you're just doing everything brand new. This is brand new. You're super excited about it. You're going to do this whole different setup. So you're going to start everything over again from scratch.
Yeah.
Like a new hobbyist would.
Yeah.
So you're going to start from scratch again. And I have noticed we've had it happen in our fish room. It basically goes to the cycling of a tank, of what is actually going on there.
Yeah, I think that knowing your nitrogen cycle is really helpful to understanding cloudy water, because just understanding that there is a bacteria and bacterias and all different kinds of things that's highly important, that is required for you to understand if you want to combat this cloudy water issue. But it's more than just knowing the nitrogen cycle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, you're
and backing up a little bit, like you're going point. Yeah, and backing up a little bit, like, what is cloudy water? There's a few different things it could be. It's not just, I have cloudy water, this is the fix for it. You can have a bacterial bloom, an algae bloom, green water. Like, there's a couple different things, and today we're just going to talk about the bacterial bloom, and we'll talk about the others at a later point. But for the sake of this conversation, it's going to be more of the bacterial bloom behind the cloudy water issue. But if you walk into your fish room, or you walk into the room you keep your aquarium, and it's cloudy in the sense of it looks like it's got milk in it.
Somebody poured half and half in your fish tank.
It's more of that. If it's green, like a green water cloudy like look, or it looks like an algae on the greener side of things, that's more of the algae bloom, and that's different. We're going to talk about that milky cloudy. That's an indication of a bacterial bloom. So that's in this podcast episode. If you have cloudy water that looks milky, that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and so let's just jump right into the kind of the nitrogen cycle, so to speak.
Aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, with this cloudy water that we're talking about, you got different levels of bacteria, and there's tons.
And when he talks about the nitrogen cycle, that's what we talk about as the nitrifying bacteria type of aspect of it. Your good, what's it called, bacterial filter bacteria or something like that. It's the things that help you in your nitrogen cycle type of thing. That's your autotrophic bacteria. But there's another kind of side shoot to that's a heterotrophic type bacteria that you might not know about or learn about just studying the nitrogen cycle. So knowing the nitrogen cycle is always my first recommendation to anybody like keeping fish. Like, if you're going to know something, know that nitrogen cycle. But if you run into the milky cloudy water situation, know that there's this kind of offshoot bacteria that it is going on.
Yeah, and it can be helpful in small quantities.
Yes.
But in large quantities,
not so much.
That is why you get the discoloration in your water.
But even kind of going a step back, because this is a big topic, and it took me a long time to understand, because I probably ran into this issue keeping tanks in the beginning, and I just didn't even know what was going. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. So if you're new, this is your brand new, and after we talk about this, we'll talk about, you can get this with an established tank too, but in the beginning, let's say this is your first tank and it's fresh substrate, fresh everything. Like, how does this process even begin? Like the nitrogens, like all of this even start out, like going back to the very basic level.
All right, I can pull this one off. Go back.
Okay. Let's hope. We're talking about it.
Going back to the very beginning. All right. We got our glass box. Let's throw in some sand and some gravel. Let's throw in a few plants.
It's a super sterile new tank.
Okay, so I'm throwing in some sand and gravel. I'm gonna throw in a few plants, and then I'm gonna pour my water in and use a dechlorinator.
Yes. The first thing that's going to happen, that's going to trigger this process, is you're going to want that dechlorinator, because it's going to take help take that out of that chlorine out of the water, so the bacteria, good, bad, or whatever, can even start growing. Because if you have chlorine in your tank,
nothing grows.
It's fresh water from your tap. It's not gonna. That's got to all evaporate. That's gonna have to get out before this even starts. So that's why we recommend all the time, use a water conditioner, because it helps take that out so your bacteria can grow. Because you don't want bacteria in your drinking water.
No,
but you want it in your fish tank.
That's why they put it in there, so we're not drinking a bunch of good or bad bacteria.
We set up our tank. We use our dechlorinator. It's been a little bit of time. You're gonna start to see some bacteria, but that first bacteria that grows isn't necessarily that nitrifying bacteria. Especially, let's say, I used to start tanks with the fish food method. I didn't start with fish, but I would start with some fish flakes. So there's nothing in there yet. I didn't have live plants in there. I didn't have anything in there that would, so they always say you're going to see bacteria grow. Well, going back earlier, there's the heterotrophic bacteria and the autotrophic bacteria. That autotrophic bacteria is going to be your nitrifying bacteria.
Yep, that's the best of the best. That's the best you can get.
But this other one,
the heterotrophic, is good bacteria, and it is going to form first.
It's good in the sense that it helps. I always think of it as if something's decaying or in decomposition or rotting or however way you want to put that, this is the stuff that's going to help break that down.
Yes.
And it's very quickly growing.
Oh, it multiplies so fast.
But even so, it likes the organic stuff, where the heterotrophic or the autotrophic likes the inorganic stuff. So going back to that earlier conversation where it's our sterile tank, we're using a little bit of fish food to start the tank.
Yep. The only thing, autotrophic, all it needs, it's aerobic. Yeah. All it needs is oxygen and CO2, which is both present in water.
This is going to be a very all over the place, but the it's both. In right conditions, it can run with oxygen or without oxygen, whereas the nitrifying bacteria only works with oxygen.
Yes.
But the reason that autotrophic bacteria starts to grow with inorganic material is light and the carbon dioxide.
Yep, CO2.
That's what it uses for its energy. Yep. And it's I guess you could say it's self-sustaining in the way that it produces its own food source.
Yep.
To keep it going. Whereas the heterotrophic bacteria, it needs something.
Yeah,
it can't produce something that it can eat.
Yes.
and it can feed on organic stuff. Whereas the other one, so if I'm putting fish food in my brand new sterile tank, and it's that there's nothing in there to eat it, that fish food, even if it's like a flake, it's going to rot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, since this heterotrophic bacteria is so rapidly producing, it can reproduce in like 15 to 20 minutes, where the other one reproduces in like 15 to 24 hours.
Yeah, it'll double.
So it's going to come up because of that stuff's decaying. It's that organic matter, where the other one is forming too, because it's working on the carbon dioxide and the light and all of that. But it takes 15 to 20 hours to produce that and start to grow.
Whereas and then it'd take another 15 to 24 hours for that little bit amount that grow to double.
Yeah.
And then again, and then
whereas
again.
Whereas the other one, it's got that rotten food right there. It's reproducing every 15 to 20 minutes. Or let's add to this brand new tank. We did add fish. We added a goldfish. And that waste
so there comes all kinds of...
still like, it might eat that fish flake that I started that brand new tank, but it's going to go to the bathroom. That's still organic matter. It's going to reproduce really quickly. And it is a larger size, and it doesn't really attach to anything, whereas the autotrophic bacteria is smaller and it attaches to things. So it's going to grow on your substrate, your filter, when we say nitrifying, your good bacteria is growing on, it's everywhere in your tank, but it latches onto things.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, when you say it's a milky color,
it's in your water column.
It's in your water column, and it's literally blooming and reproducing at that super fast rate inside your water column. And because it is a larger, it might attach to like the glass and things, but it's going to be more in your water because of that bloom.
Yes.
That you see.
And that's what causes the almost murky look that you're talking about, because it's reproducing at such a rate that, I mean, it can cause a film on the top of your water.
Yeah, and when we say like biofilm, usually it's that heterotrophic bacteria. It likes to eat nitrogen and it produces ammonia, but it can't, it's like, I don't know how to describe it very well. It's very opportunistic in which that it's in your tank. It's there, but it's not going to bloom unless you give it something to feed on. And the autotrophic bacteria, it does come into play. It's eventually going to balance itself out. It's going to, it's going to eventually, they're going to compete, but it's going to eventually take care of that bacteria that you don't necessarily want blooming in your, it's going to even itself out, but it's going to take a lot more time for it to reproduce. And so as that bloom dissolves, your nitrifying bacteria is catching up.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Yes, your autotrophic bacteria takes much longer. So what is going to happen is you're going to have a crazy spike in the beginning. We'll go with your saying. We threw a fish flake in there, and we put a goldfish in there. All right. Well, your heterotrophic bacteria, anything that can decompose, is what we're saying is organic. And to clarify, anything organic. It could be plants that fall apart, or it could be a piece of driftwood. It can be fish poop, obviously fish urine. Any of the water, when it runs through their gills, it's excreting through their gills, and that's where you're getting a lot of your other bad waste off your fish. So any of that, any botanicals you put in the water, tannins, if you're like leaning towards a tannin type tank, all of that is going to break down. And when that breaks down, this all ties together with the nitrogen cycle. When it breaks down, it's going to decompose. We're going to kick off the nitrogen cycle right then. We're going to have a big old ammonia spike. Well, guess what? Right behind that, you're going to have your nitrate and then obviously your nitrites. But before that, that's where your heterotrophic bacteria comes in. That mineralization, that breakdown, that initial breakdown of anything, it's all breaking down and all that is going into your water column.
And when you're setting up a new tank, like I've set up a new tank where everything's been just fine. I started with a sterile tank. I started fresh and new. I added my fish food and I did not have a bacterial bloom. We're not saying that this is, if you start this and you do this, you're always going to have this. It's really depends on how much you're giving it to feed upon. So if you have too much organic material in that tank, you might have a very high chance
you'll have
of having this bacterial bloom. Or let's say it's a well-established tank and you didn't know a snail died or a fish passed away or a dead plant or something that's in there that's causing something to decompose that you don't know about. Now, how you solve it is a little bit different. Let's say we go back to our hypothetical sterile tank that did end up having an algae bloom. We gave it too much. We overfed it.
You mean had a bacterial bloom?
Yeah, bacterial bloom. You fed it too much, or you did start with fish and you didn't have enough of that nitrifying bacteria in the beginning to keep up with it. And it did just create a bloom. If you have no fish in that tank, you just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. It's going to look bad, but you're going to have an increase in ammonia because of that heterotrophic bacteria. But if there's nothing in there, no fish, if you water change your tank, like I have in the past, thinking that's going to work, that bacteria is in the water column and it does reproduce very quickly. So if you're water changing that out and you're putting fresh water back in, it's still there. It's still reproducing. Unless you figure out where that organic matter is coming from to take it out, then you're just going to it's going to keep growing. You have to figure it out. But if you leave it alone, because you have no fish in there, you don't need a water change, that autotrophic bacteria is going to come up, that colony of bacteria is going to rise, and it's going to eventually outdo that, and it's going to take care of that bloom. Just leave it alone. But let's say you do have fish in your tank, or it's an established tank and you have a whole bunch of stuff in that tank. It's been set up for a while and it's milky and cloudy, and you have to water change at that point because of the ammonia. You have the ammonia that from your nitrifying bacteria that it is helping, especially if you have the plants. It's trying to
keep the ammonia level low. It's trying to keep the ammonia down, and you'll probably see, if you test it, you're going to see a heavy, you probably won't see hardly any ammonia in there, but you're going to see a nitrite spike, and you're also going to see a nitrate spike.
But since you have fish in there at this point, those ammonia levels that will spike are going to hurt your fish at that point. So you are going to have to do water changes. And it's very important to figure out where that extra organic waste is coming, whether you're overfeeding or you had a fish pass away, or there's some reason why that heterotrophic bacteria has bloomed and it feeds on organic waste, whereas the other one, like we said, feeds on inorganic waste, but it has a way of creating its own food, in which that you have those first you have that nitrosomus bacteria that converts the NO2 to NO3. And
the nitrosomus takes the ammonia from ammonia to your
NO2.
To nitrite.
Yeah.
Because this time it's I before A.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
I before A.
But that cycle of the ammonia to NO2 to NO3 is that it's creating its own waste to eat into it and keeping the cycle going.
Yes.
Whereas the heterotrophic bacteria, like we said, it's not doing that. It's eating it, producing it to ammonia. So if you can take care of wherever that excess is coming from, whether you're usually in my case, it was overfeeding because that was just breaking down and rotting, then that's by water changing. You're going to have to water change that out, figure out what's going on, because it is just feeding on, it's something organic that's causing that bacteria to bloom, and you can literally see it in the water because that's that heterotrophic bacteria you can see it.
Oh, and it could be just as simple as check your glass, clean your glass.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes your tank can look a little cloudy just because of that little bit of film, which is this heterotrophic bacteria I like to put organic stuff like driftwood, some catappa leaves, and when you see it looks like a white fungus growing almost, or a mold of some sort growing. It's that biofilm, that filmy white.
Yep.
That's this heterotrophic bacteria, and I like to leave that in the tank because I have shrimp. I have Neocaridina shrimp, and it does like to eat that. It's healthy for him to eat that, but I'm not letting it get completely out of control either. But it's
a balancing act.
It is a balance.
It's a balancing act. And
just know that that's what that is. When you see that milky, it's still milky too, and I hate to use that word, but it's like
almost a haze.
Yeah. But once it's in the water column, it does look like milk just literally poured. It's just milk poured in your tank. And the one time I've had it recently in my tank down here, it was in my 30-gallon. We went on a trip and I came back and I was like, oh my goodness, like what is going on? And I used to have 2 plecos in there and now I have 1 pleco in there. So that's what I think happened. And we were gone away, and that was a decomposing fish in the tank, and it caused that to just go crazy and spike. And I don't see it very often, but I come across it like every once in a great while. It's usually like a snail or something, because I do have a lot of snails in my tank for the ones that are more established. But in the beginning, you usually do have some kind of bacteria bloom. If it's a brand new sterile tank and you're adding a bunch of fish food to start it, or you add a bunch of fish starting off and there's not enough time for any bacteria to really take hold because you've set it up and then 5 minutes later you added your fish to it and they're just going to the bathroom, and you're going to encounter this first, this heterotrophic bacteria, and then your autotrophic bacteria is going to catch up. But if you're starting off that way, not every time, not 100% are you going to run into this, but you're highly likely to encounter an algae bloom in that fresh beginning.
And a bacteria bloom.
Bacteria bloom. I get them trying to concentrate and it still doesn't work. But in that very beginning, that's when I feel like a lot of fish keepers that are new, they set up their tank, they add a bunch of fish, they overfeed their fish. Then on top of it, you have all that bioload from that fish. You haven't had any time. You didn't add anything to it. If we're lucky, maybe a water conditioner. And it's just a recipe for disaster. And then you're going to have this algae bloom. The only thing you are probably being told to do is water change. And water changing, I would say...
I wish you'd quit saying algae bloom.
Well, me too. And I feel like water changing a lot of times does solve the problem. If you do a good water change, a lot of the times that does work. But in this particular circumstance, if you water change, that bacteria is in that water column, and it's just this heterotrophic bacteria reproduces so quickly that you're just a couple days later, my water's cloudy again. I water changed, but a couple of days later, my water's cloudy again. And I want to give up because I don't have this nice, pretty aquarium that I thought I could have. And then they give up and they leave the hobby, when if you can have the patience to start your tank and have either a friend in the hobby or a friend in a fish store or someone that can give you some really good seeded bacteria from a filter, and go ahead and start it with some already mature aquarium filter media to start that tank, it's going to help. But if you don't have that, just set up the tank, leave it alone. You might go ahead and add a fish flake of food or a little bit if you would like. That's what I did do. And then just leave it alone. If it does have an algae or a bacteria bloom, just leave it alone, because if you water change, it's just going to come back. So just give it time. I know it's hard. It was very hard even for me right now to even talk about it. I keep saying algae bloom when I need bacteria bloom. But that's where patience is really helpful, because it's just the best thing you can do is just walk away and leave it alone. Let that time to mature, balance itself out, have time for all of the bacteria, all that microorganisms that you can't even see, give that time to mature and grow. Then add your fish. Do not ever overfeed your fish, because that causes so much problems. But that's the best scenario.
Yes.
But again, if you did add fish to your tank, it's established or new, and you have to do water changes because you have this this bacteria bloom and that ammonia spiking, do water change, aquarium vac, figure out if it takes time to figure out if you're overfeeding, or maybe you added too many fish to your tank. Maybe everything was going good, and instead of adding 2 or 3 mollies, you added 10, and there's a whole bunch more extra bioload to that aquarium, and now your cycle needs time to catch up. So you might encounter a bacterial bloom at that point because of all that extra organic waste from the extra food that you're feeding and all the extra bioload of those fish. So water change, but figure out whether you're overfeeding or there's a piece of food trapped under that big clump of plants over there, or maybe you had a snail pass away and you didn't know it, or
always check your filter.
Or there's something. And with filtration, if your filtration is, let's say you don't have filter floss in there or something in there, and all that debris is just going right through your filter back into your tank, you feel like it's filtering, but that's still in there. You want to I like to have more of a finer type filter floss material, or lots of biomedia and some sponge, so that
you can catch all the debris.
Yeah, and then that gives a lot of surface area for that beneficial, that nitrifying bacteria, that nitrosomus, the nitrobacter, those different nitrifying bacterias to grow on that too, to help with allowing that to grow. You have more surface area. It does take more time, but if you have more surface area that's available for that autotrophic bacteria to latch onto, to reproduce, it will help you get that going so it can catch up and then outcompete, or however you want to put it, to where it evens back out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's easiest way for me to explain it. And I'm going to say, all right, we got our glass box and it's full of water. it is definitely a balancing act.
Yes.
You want, whether, in my opinion, whether it's a cichlid tank or I just lost the word, guppy tank, molly tank, live bearer tank. You want something, if at all possible. I know there's certain fish that people don't. They do bare bottom. Mm-hmm. You want something on the bottom of that tank, in my opinion, to help just surface area wise to gather that really good nitrifying bacteria besides just your filter.
Yeah.
Your filter, that's a great place. That's the main awesome place
good.
for it. But if you're going to go that route, you're going to want some sort of heavy duty filter. You're going to want, like you said, you're going to want a bunch of biomedia in there, a bunch of sponges, all the surface area you can cram in that filter to allow that to grow.
Yeah. Because again, the heterotrophic bacteria is larger and it just has more difficulty latching onto things. So it's more, it can't latch on as easy to your substrate. Like it still can. You still have that biofilm that's on that glass or floating at the top of your tank. Like it still has the ability to be there, but it's harder for it. So your autotrophic bacteria being smaller, it grows on the things. And that's the reason when I used to start up fresh tanks when I was younger, I always, in my head, it made sense to me and I didn't have anybody tell me otherwise. I would start a tank and I wouldn't use the substrate or anything. I would set up my tank with all my new stuff and then I would take the water from another tank and put it in my new tank. And the bacteria, I was on the right track, but I'm more apt to get this heterotrophic bacteria doing that. In time, will it still mature and do what it's supposed to do? Yes. But you have more luck starting a new tank and jump starting that process along to add fish quicker if you use the autotrophic bacteria, the nitrifying bacteria, which latches on to the substrate, your plants, you're on your fish, like it's literally on everything. And this heterotrophic bacteria is in your tank, but it's not taking over. It's not out competing what you want. It's just opportunistic.
Yes.
If you have an opportunity for it to take over, it's going to take that opportunity and run, and you're gonna have a cloudy tank. You're gonna have a cloudy tank, and it's gonna be opaque and milky and not so pretty. But you want to start that tank, and it took me a while because Google wasn't available at the time. My dad didn't really know. I would know just enough to get me in trouble. I'm supposed to do this and use the water. Well, yeah, it helps you take something from an established tank, but you would set yourself up if you use, like you said, the substrate. Putting plants from another tank in there. That's why that's more helpful than taking the water and starting a new tank.
And as a side note, the autotrophic bacteria, the great beneficial bacteria that we were talking about, that wonderful nitrobacteria that does everything to just basically keep your water cycle on time. It's everything is in balance because your little glass box is nothing but a big old scale. Your water is the measuring board. And if it gets out of whack, you're going to know it.
Yeah.
You're going to get that bacteria bloom. You're going to have fish gasping. I mean, things can go either direction. It can go up, down, sideways, upside down, do cartwheels on you, all kinds of stuff. That is the biggest thing. Just really pay attention.
Yeah, you can, and testing your water is very important because you can, especially with your nitrogen cycle, you can see it, whether you're using a master test kit. I personally like to use the test strips because they're a little less accurate, obviously, but they're very quick and easy to use. You can see, okay, I'm in my ammonia spiking, my NO2 spiking, my NO3 spiking. When you see that, you know where you are, especially in that beginning stages of your brand new tank. If you have a mature tank, if you have an ammonia spike,
that's bad.
That's really bad. And you know, ammonia has to be water changed out. If you see it in your tank, you need to water change that out. But if you have that milky appearance, then you know I'm going to water change this out because I'm getting the ammonia out. But I have this bacteria that's eating something organic and releasing more ammonia into my tank. So, yes, I'm going to do a water change, but that water change is not going to solve my problem in this aspect. Whereas most of the time, the greatest advice to most problems is a water change.
True.
But this, you have to figure out. You've got to either know, don't feed them as much. Maybe feed them once a day instead of 3 times a day. Maybe do a water change and aquarium vac a little bit more and see if you're missing any fish or if there's any snails in your tank. See if there's any snails that's passed. There's some kind of, or if you recently added 2 pieces of driftwood to your tank and it's completely filmed over with biofilm, that might, a little bit is good, especially if you have shrimp. But if it's to the point where it's floating in your, with the breeze of your output of your filter and you have a slimy film on the top of your tank and you haven't done a water change in 6 months, it kind of go experiment a little bit. Just know in this particular aspect of what I'm saying when it comes to that milky appearance, yes, you're going to have to do a water change, but there's an underlying factor of organic that this heterotrophic bacteria is feeding on, and you have a bloom that you can literally see in your water.
Yeah, and I think for the beginner, it's probably the jump start. Like you watched a YouTube video, said throw some fish food and stuff in there to jump start it. So you threw a handful in there when you only need to throw a couple pellets. You threw a whole handful of food in there. Now you have a very rotting, decomposing.
Overfeeding can lead to so many problems. But sometimes in these tanks I have now, they have a lot of Vallisneria. And it's to the point where you can't necessarily notice, because I have a lot of snails in there too. And if I lose some snails or some shrimp or something, I won't be able to just instantly spot it. Whereas some tanks that aren't so grown with plants, or it could just be a dead plant, like you said too. Anything that's decaying.
Anything that's organic. Yeah. Anything that has matter that can decompose. So you're talking, again, fish, snails, shrimp, plants, driftwood, leaves, anything you put in that tank that can decompose. I mean,
that was once living.
Even to the point, we can take it just a little towards the more scientific. Even to the point, your substrate, it breaks down. It's buffering the water. It is changing your water column with different minerals, depending on what you use. Like we use a lot of fluval stratum. That buffers the water. That turns it a little bit softer. Your sands, your gravels, they break down very, very slowly. Do not misread me here. Very slowly. But they are changing the mineral content in your water.
Yes. Yeah.
it is a very big scale that you're working with.
Yeah.
And you are trying to keep, we'll just use because I'm looking at one, a 55-gallon box of water. Mm-hmm. We're trying to keep that scale even. Well, it's really easy to tip that scale either direction.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be from adding too many fish, adding too many plants. I mean, anything, too many tannins, too many leaves, too much driftwood. There's so many. The list is endless of the things that could go wrong.
Well, let's scare everybody. I don't know if it's that. There's a lot of different factors that comes to affect your bacteria colony and your water condition. Like you said, there's a lot of different factors. But if you take the time to know what's going on in your aquarium that you can't necessarily see, it makes things a lot easier. I might not know how to fix everything by far, especially certain fish diseases, but the more time I go down the rabbit hole and the more I talk to people and research, things get easier and I can do things that help, whereas before I would do things that I thought would help, but it would make things worse a lot of times. And it's helpful to have a community and a bunch of fish-loving friends that can be like, no, don't do that. But going back to just setting up your beginning, going back to the very beginning, kind of wrap things up. Hopefully people are not more confused. Okay, you're starting off. You have your sterile aquarium. You're going to start with fresh substrate and everything else. You're going to have your autotrophic and heterotrophic bacteria.
Yes.
Your autotrophic bacteria produces things that it can eat to sustain itself, whereas the heterotrophic bacteria cannot.
True.
The autotrophic, likes inorganic things, and it gets kickstarted from CO2.
Yep. CO2,
which
oxygen,
is inorganic.
Yep. CO2 and oxygen,
Yes.
which are both present in water.
Yes, it's smaller. It's slower growing. It takes 15 to 20 plus hours to reproduce.
To double.
And
in its
it
size.
latches onto things. That's your nitrifying, your bacterial filtering bacteria that you want in your fish tank because it helps cycle. It's what helps get really good water quality. You want that beneficial bacteria.
It's
that
the kickstart of your nitrogen cycle.
Yes, your beneficial bacteria that first you're going to have the nitrosomas and your nitrobacter.
Yep.
Those are the main bacterias that you're going to see on that autotrophic level.
Yep.
That's the ones that we hear about all the time. Your heterotrophic bacteria is larger. It doesn't latch on to things as easily. It still does to your glass and stuff like that, but not as easily. It really loves to eat nitrogen.
Yep.
And fats, sugars, proteins like that, organic.
Anything that decomposes
Yes.
in water.
Yes, it's going to produce that bacteria. Since it is larger, it's going to bloom. You can see it in your water column because that's where it's at. It's in your water column. You see it a lot in new tanks because it's the first to set up.
Yep.
Especially if you're feeding too much food or you have too much fish in there and you haven't had time for the autotrophic bacteria to catch up.
Yeah, because you're kicking that
level things out.
You're kicking that nitrogen, that nitrification cycle into high gear, and first thing that's going to be present when anything decomposes is going to be ammonia. Well, guess what? That's where your heterotrophic stuff comes in and starts going, oh, goody. We can, it's ammonia and it turns to nitrite. And ooh, I love anything with the letter N in it.
Yeah.
And here we go. And we just start kicking it off and it's going like gangbusters.
Yes. And the heterotrophic bacteria can run without oxygen, but given oxygen, that's what it's going to use.
Yes.
That's what it's going to use oxygen, and it's going to produce ammonia. Whereas the autotrophic bacteria has to have oxygen to run.
Yes.
So. And
oxygen is always present in water to some degree.
Yes, and the heterotrophic bacteria needs you say it better, the mineralization.
Which mineralization is just anything decomposing. That's all it is. So it's not really to anyone listening, it's not a fancy term. A lot of this stuff...
It's just hard to say for me.
They throw all this stuff out. Anything that decomposes is organic. And when it decomposes and it's going into the water column, all the ingredients that are in said organic material to some degree end up in the water column. That's mineralization. It's just what's changing your water.
Yes.
What are you if it's decomposing, if it's like a dead fish, it's going to be an ammonia spike and there's going to be, but if it's a plant or something, it could be more phosphates. It could be anything that's going to change that water column just a little bit.
And another thing about the difference between the two is the autotrophic, that nitrifying bacteria. Once it's dried out, you can't save it.
No.
So if I want to start a new tank and I have a filter that was once running at one point that had some aquarium media in it or some substrate from a leftover tank, but it's dried out. I let it dry out and I use that substrate to start a new tank. It's not going to work.
No.
It's sterile at that point, for a lack of a better term.
Nitrobacter has basically no shelf life.
Yes. Whereas if you go to the store and you get, it's mainly, I think of it as, I used to get it at Lowe's for sludge removal, like for the pond. You get that real nasty sludgy bottom of your substrate. And I'd buy sludge remover because it said it was bacteria. The heterotrophic bacteria has an ability to spore. So you can save it. You can bottle it. You can add it to things and
because it's present in the water column.
Yes.
They can bottle it.
Whereas the autotrophic bacteria does not do that. It once it's dried out, it's gone. This one, the heterotrophic bacteria can spore up, and I recognize it as sludge. That sludge is decomposing who knows what.
Yes.
It's very organic. It's very yummy. But that bottle of sludge remover is nothing but heterotrophic bacteria.
And when we say that, that encompasses a very large group of bacteria.
Because there's a lot of different ones, and different concentrations reproduce at different rates. But just know in very simple terms that that's what that is.
Yes.
So.
And it works well. It loves organic matter. That's what that's what it's there for. It eats it, destroys it. I mean, just.
But like you see it when you add beneficial bacteria to jumpstart a tank, and it's a little cloudy.
Yes, that's what you're doing. You are adding organic matter to that water.
But you're adding, but it's not, your autotrophic bacteria is still going, it's still going to take its time. It's still eventually going to be there too.
Yes.
It just takes longer because you don't have to have that organic, because it can, let's say you start a tank and you don't have any, there's nothing in it. There's no organic. You didn't feed anything. There's no fish. It is just straight up water, substrate, filter. That's it. You didn't add not a single piece of driftwood, not even a little leaf in that tank. That autotrophic bacteria is going to start because of the carbon dioxide.
Yep.
Whereas this other bacteria, that heterotrophic bacteria, it's going to be there too. But you haven't given it enough organic matter to bloom out of control.
Absolutely. And that would be the reason, if you have the patience, in my opinion, if you have the patience to go ahead and put what you want in there as far as substrate and plants, even though the plants, that's going to kind of kick off the other a little bit, just let it go. Just let it sit, because it will slowly start like a little choo-choo, the little engine that could.
It'll do it.
The little engine that could. No matter what, it's going to start doing it. You don't have to add anything extra. It will do it naturally, organically on its own.
And if you're in the situation that you're currently just set up a brand new tank and it's milky white and you have some fish in there already, we do recommend doing a water change.
Yeah,
but know that
depending on the size of the tank, do smaller water changes.
Just mainly lay off the chances are there's too much food.
Or too many fish.
And too many fish, even together still. You can't help them going to the bathroom. Well, I guess you even can. Not feeding as much will solve the problem of your fish not having as much bio waste. And you're not going to have as much fish food wasting at the bottom of the tank. So do a water change and just lay off the feeding and aquarium vac that extra waste out until that goes away. But if you don't have fish in there at all, and this is your first tank, and you're just waiting for it to cycle through, don't get discouraged because you're doing water changes and it's not working. Just
quit doing water changes.
Quit doing water changes. And if you do have a little bit of extra ammonia, say a little bit, you will have some extra ammonia. You can add some more water conditioner to that tank, and it will help eat up some of that ammonia. But just dose as needed. Just follow the directions. But that water conditioner will help eat up that ammonia to an extent. But the only way you can truly get rid of that is add a whole bunch of plants and do water changes. But if this is your first tank with no fish, no nothing, just leave it alone. But if you do have fish in there, do a water change. Figure out what's in there that's causing that bloom. It's either going to be too much food, too much waste, you added too much fish at once. There's an organic reason that is blooming.
Absolutely. That's, again, back to my little scale metaphor. You're running a balancing act here.
Yeah. Yes. But we wish you luck. And I hope this just did not confuse you or discourage you at all. This topic has been something I have researched all the time. And it's very intimidating in the beginning to be like, oh my goodness, I have a bacteria bloom. And I think, honestly, I haven't 100% connected the dots. But if you have a bacteria infection in your fish or something that's on the more negative side of things, I feel like this heterotrophic bacteria is going to be more of the culprit behind the reason behind illness or something like that that's related to a bad bacteria over the autotrophic bacteria, because it helps with the nitrogen cycle, whereas this heterotrophic bacteria is something that I think of
It helps with the nitrogen cycle, but it's kind of the yin to the yang.
Yeah. So if you have something that you had a cloudy tank recently and maybe now your fish has a bacterial infection, I don't know if it's a direct correlation or anything like that, but just make sure that you can figure out where that excess organic substance is coming from and solve whether it's too much food or, like we said, waste or something. I feel like that would help. It's just an interesting thing that I've kind of like, I think of it more as the autotrophic is good and the heterotrophic is bad in my brain, but the heterotrophic's not bad all the time.
It's basically the jump start to the nitrification
yes. And like
cycle.
you said, it's the yin to the yang. You have to have this
to get there.
Yes, you still have to have this in your tank to have a healthy, balanced aquarium. It's there for a reason. So I hope this helps you with your journey to solving your cloudy water problem. And like we said at the very beginning, you can also, and like I kept saying all the time, algae bloom, you can have algae blooms too. And we'll talk about that probably next week, but that's a green cloudy water. This is that milky, it looks like you poured milk in your water. So that is a whole other discussion.
Well, yeah, that's another 45 minutes to an hour.
Well, and it still comes down to don't overfeed your tank.
Yes, basically.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this Aquarium Dilemmas podcast talking about cloudy water. I really hope it has helped. And if you would like to watch this podcast, don't forget to check out ScienceGal Aquatics on YouTube. You can check out the memberships. So again, I want to send much love to our friend Chattanooga Ed. I hope you feel better soon. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, if you have any questions, comments, or have another idea for a dilemma that you're having that we probably also had or will have.
Yes, I'll probably have had it, messed it up.
Hit us up at ScienceGal Aquatics.
Yes, thank you again. It's so much fun talking about these topics with you. So thank you so much.
Until next time, thank you for tuning in. Bye.